So I talked to Kelly this week. I know she's sad not to be here with us. She plans to be here with us next year. We miss her. She's a rock star here at Kent. But she has sent a wonderful substitute, my dear friend and colleague, Butch Ward. You can read Butch's official bio in your packet there. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I am just going to say it is a great pleasure to have Butch with us in Kent for the first time. He is a longtime journalist. He and I believe...
No
okay.
words like that.
All right, okay. He and I first met when he worked at the Philadelphia Inquirer, and I was editor at the Beacon Journal, and so we were Knight Ridder editors together, and now we're Poynter colleagues together. And I think you're right. I'll just leave it to this. Please welcome Butch Ward.
So how you doing? Everybody okay? This is really, you know, my life has been very blessed, and days like today are exactly what I mean when I say that. I hope that when you listen to all of us today, you get some sense of the buzz that we get because we're able to spend a day with really good people interested in doing really important work. And that's a buzz. You'll hear me say a couple of times today probably that journalists have a gift. I don't mean they were given a gift of being able to do something well. That's uneven at best. But we've been given a gift to be able to reach communities with information that can help them live better lives. And with that gift comes responsibility. And so today is all about accepting that responsibility and spending time thinking about its implications. How can we ensure that the work we do has the impact we want it to have? How can we ensure that more often the processes by which we produce our journalism include the steps necessary to make sure we are going to have a positive impact? Because to take that gift and waste it is a true sin. Okay? And so let's have some fun today. This is a buzz. This is an opportunity to get better at what we do. And I'm really glad you're all here. And I can still almost see you in the back. But after all, I've been a long-time journalist. So let's start out and talk a little bit about why we're here. Why are we here today? Well, we're here because the body of a 3-year-old Syrian child washed ashore on a Turkish beach, and journalists had to decide what to do with the photographs. We're here today because a Roanoke, Virginia TV reporter and her photographer were shot to death while reporting a live story during the station's morning show, and journalists had to decide what to do with the video. We're here today because a bomb killed 20 people during rush hour outside a Bangkok shrine, and journalists had to decide what to do with live-streamed video of the carnage. We're here today to talk about how journalists make those decisions and how we can make better ones. Why? Because every one of those decisions had an impact on people, in some cases, millions of people. In the words of one person who saw the Bangkok live stream, "Oh my God, I can't ever unsee that. I can't ever unsee that." Many of the people who watched that video can't ever unsee that. And surely the photographer who captured that live stream of blood and body parts and hysteria can't unsee that either. Was it worth it? Let me be clear. This is not a day devoted to red light journalism, what not to publish or broadcast. This is a day about producing, publishing, and broadcasting the best journalism we can with the best positive impact we can have for the communities we serve. And let's, thinking of that, pull back for a second and think about this. Our lives have been shaped in many positive ways by events and images that we can't unsee, right? As a 10-year-old boy, I can't ever unsee my father, a quiet man, shouting at his brother-in-law on Sunday afternoon to stop with the racial insults that black people had the same rights that he did. Stop it. As a young father, I can't ever unsee my 10-month-old son pulling himself up by my knee and watching as I lit a cigarette, the last cigarette I ever smoked. And I can't ever unsee the photograph of a naked Vietnamese girl fleeing the fires of napalm, or the emaciated concentration camp survivors greeting their Allied liberators, or the day I read this sentence in a Chicago Reporter story about a woman dealing with another teen's murder in a long summer of murders, while one of the beat cops used a hose to wash blood from the grass into the gutter, and the forensic investigators finished their scene work. Brown tucked her hood over her head and walked back home. I can't ever unsee that. And that's good. This ability of journalism to produce can't ever unsee moments is one of its most powerful tools for helping the community identify and address its issues. And all over the world, journalists continue to produce that kind of work that causes things to change. But the media landscape today also includes stories, photographs, and videos that are just as likely to do damage as they are to make things better. Sometimes the work causes harm to the subject's reputation or privacy. Sometimes the work, without sufficient merit, seriously upsets its unsuspecting audience. And sometimes it leaves scars on the journalists who gathered it. In many of those cases, the process that produced those stories lacked a key step, a serious conversation that weighs the potential positive and negative impacts of publishing or broadcasting the work, and whether the potential good outweighs the potential harm. And if there was such a conversation, I'm betting it sounded like one we would have had 20 years ago in a very different media environment. A lot has changed. So let's place our conversations today in the context of three very challenging realities for journalism in 2015. First, the journalist's role has changed. The journalist's role as gatekeeper is no more. Let's face it, the gate is wide open. Hell, the fence is gone. There's nothing left. The days of journalists deciding what the public will read and see and how their understanding of issues will be shaped is over. In fact, journalists are now just one among many contributors to the public body of information. Private citizens, sports fans, businesses, teams, governments, and a million other entities all provide the public with information that informs their understanding of issues, sometimes before the journalists get involved. That's what happened with the dead child on the beach. Those photographs were viral on social media while news organizations were still debating whether to run them. The audience decided those photos were legitimate news. But wait, some argue, the journalist's pursuit of truth is more rigorous, more credible, more dependable. Maybe it is, maybe it's not, but journalism's exclusive hold on the information business is gone. this is a crucial role change, because before we can ask better questions about the impact of our work, we need to decide, what is our work? If not gatekeeper, what? Shall we be the explainer? The advocate? The investigator? You know, Vox has embraced the role of explainer. Okay? Need to understand healthcare issues? ISIS? Why college costs are so high? How to watch the debate? Well, chances are Vox can help you. It takes its role very seriously. Should journalists be advocates? The paper that the Poynter Institute owns in St. Petersburg, the Tampa Bay Times, took on an issue in 2012 after the local commissioners removed the fluoride from the water, making St. Petersburg one of the largest cities in America not to have fluoridated water. It worked. It worked. The campaign worked. The fluoride is back because the newspaper decided to be an advocate. Should journalists be investigators? Some would call them prosecutors or watchdogs. It's a role many news organizations have played for years, and done well, investigative journalism has resulted in important changes in public policy, freed wrongly jailed prisoners, and even ousted a sitting president. What role should journalists play? We need to identify that role or roles. We don't have to just pick one, but we need to stick to it. Why? Because until that happens, we can't ask the question that lies at the heart of conversations we should be having about how to handle trauma journalism. And that question? What is my journalistic purpose? What is my journalistic purpose for running the Roanoke shooter's video of the double murder? What is my journalistic purpose for live streaming video from the Bangkok bomb site? What is my journalistic purpose for running a photograph of a dead Syrian child? When I know my journalistic purpose, I can discuss not only whether to run a piece of journalism, I can discuss what else I need to do, what other questions I need to ask, what other steps I need to take in order to maximize its intended impact. I can talk about adding context. I can talk about creating a better environment. I can talk about sharing my rationale for my decision with the audience. But think of it this way. Before I can decide what to do, I need to decide why I'm doing it. I need to know my journalistic purpose. Which brings me to reality number 2. Journalists not only are undecided about their role, they have no agreement with the audience about what the role should be, and worse, we have almost no relationship with the audience in which to have that conversation. Yes, some journalists are engaging the public on Twitter, Facebook, and other social media platforms. Most newsrooms are requiring their staff to engage the community in some way. But many journalists' social media posts are limited to promoting their work or establishing their personal brands. Significant discussions about the role of trauma media or our handling of it. In this current environment, the prospects for such a dialogue seem to be a reach. And to complicate the matter further, the split between the audience and journalists is not a clean one. Not only are journalists divided about the value of tough images and tough language and tough stories, but the audience is too. Go to any comment stream attached to a controversial video or image, and you'll find people who criticize the posting. especially when it appeared without any warnings. But you'll also find comments like this one on the gruesome Bangkok feed. This is how Periscope should be used, the future of reporting. Bottom line, if journalists want to play a significant role in the lives of their communities, they first need to acknowledge the role the audience is playing in being co-shapers of the public debate. And then journalists need to find ways to have an ongoing conversation with the public, a two-way conversation with the public about how journalists and non-journalists alike can maximize the impact of their work for the public good. It won't be easy, but we desperately need it. And the third reality is also a tough one. Journalism is a struggling business. With revenues and audience declining in many news organizations, it's no surprise that many companies are embracing clickbait to grow audience. In such settings, the answer to the question, should we post that gruesome video, is influenced as much by business concerns as by ethical ones. And then add to the situation these tough factors. First, the newsrooms that are being asked to produce more news content faster than ever have fewer resources available to them than they've ever had. In some depleted newsrooms, reporters are posting their work directly online with little or no editing or oversight. And the reporters who are posting those stories are, in an increasing number of newsrooms, journalists with minimal experience. In such a stressed and uncertain business environment, promoting the idea of a more substantive conversation about the impact of our work is difficult and maybe even unlikely. But the payoff for getting this right is so worth it. It's enormous. In the weeks since journalists and non-journalists alike decided to run a photograph of a dead little boy, thousands and thousands of Syrian refugees have been accepted into Europe. Countries that had actively opposed the refugees' efforts to emigrate reversed their positions. Look at the faces of those refugees. You see relief, you see joy, you see hope. What greater gift could journalism give to its community than to give them hope? Such is the good impact we can have, and we must have. It is the gift we've been given, we've been entrusted with, and it's our responsibility to figure out how to make it good. As we talk today, think of that little boy and the thousands of other little boys that his photograph may have saved. That's why we have to get this right. That's why we need to be guided by that one central question. What is my journalistic purpose? Think about it. What's yours? Let's have a good day.